Not audible.
The music is audible?
Now. It's breaking. It's breaking.
Yeah. கேக்குதா?
விட்டு விட்டு கேக்குது. விட்டு விட்டு கேக்குது.
Is it the net? Is it better now? Is it still making the music?
Yes. மூடாச்சு ஏ ஹார்மோனு விளைச்சு விளைச்சு என்னாச்சு என்னாச்சு one plus one way to mama 2 plus 3 mama என் சன்சிதனி என் மந்திரவாதி Hey rowdy baby Hey rowdy baby Hey rowdy baby
Welcome to the Laughing Dance Story. Let me just do that again. I'm going to record this as a podcast. Welcome and welcome to the Laughing Dance Story. This is Special K and I am so happy and grateful to have the awesome, the cheerful, the real cool Dr. Gauri Veena on my show. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you, my love. I am privileged and honored to be here. Thank you, my love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, it is such a nice feeling to be dancing with you. You are such a bundle of joy, and every conversation with you definitely say that about you. So, yeah. So let's directly go into talking a little bit about yourself. Just so much you have done. எப்படிமா
தெரியாம செஞ்சுட்டேங்க.
Okay. Those who don't know you, okay, let's assume this is your elevator speech. Okay,
Yeah.
this is your elevator speech.
Yes,
And you have
yes.
to speak to someone who doesn't know you. Take it away.
Yeah. So I think it all started with my family, my parents. They are both doctors. They are both first generation doctors. So when people come home and they see a little one with a doctor parent, they usually ask, நீயும் டாக்டரா? எப்ப டாக்டரா போற? நானும் பெருமையா ஆமா நான் டாக்டர் தான். And அப்பவே ஒரு எனக்கு நினைவு தெரிஞ்ச நாள்ல இருந்தே I used to write prescriptions, scribble and give. Okay?
What?
So somehow
Appa.
Appa is a pediatrician, Amma is a surgeon. So I chose to be a gynecologist where I'm neither, but I'm both. So that kind of a combination where I have the best of both, but I'm not just them. I'm more than them. With that kind of a feel, I took it. And all along my schooling, I was, very free spirit. First mark la vaanga maten. Ana first mark oda better irpen because I have my own thought process.
சொல்றீங்க I saw that one. Wow,
That was in college. During school, I was not a very studious person. Rather extracurricularly நிறைய பண்ணுவேன். I'll be in my own world. I used to write stories, play out plays. I like to get people to do what I'm saying. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு different phase இருந்தது. Um, and I think somehow the 10th, 12th வரும்போது I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. Even before I wanted to be a doctor, I loved the idea of babies being born, the happiness and all. And at a very tender age, I was fortunate enough to see a delivery happen right in front of my eyes. It was an inevitable delivery in the clinic. Amma used to take me along with her to the clinic. It so happened I was sitting and doing my homework and I saw a baby come. And somehow I think it etched in my mind. And then here I am with the blessing of, delivering babies. And once I entered college, I wanted to be the best. But somehow I had it in me. And I chose Salem as that's my native place. I wanted to be there, so I chose Salem. And I bagged literally every gold medal that was there in the college. Ippa, it looks like konja greedy. Appo, it was like I wanted to do it. That used to be the spirit then. That invincible spirit.
I think, when you recognize that you have the capacity to just go beyond yourself and do, overcome and become extraordinary and ingrained in you, when you're alive, that things start to manifest. Because you are like, right now, focused, like Jesus is your hand, so like that would have been probably I individual, because one of the reasons why you would have bought it. As a child, I want to just take you back. So you're a person who likes writing, visualize, and write other stuff.
Write a lot of writing. I used to have stacks and stacks of books, notes I have taken. Recently, I've given up my hoarding personality and gave them up. Like, the entire house used to be filled. Konjam pathological kuda theriyum. அந்த அளவுக்கு I used to take notes. Every word my guru utters, I will write. Even if they sneeze, I will say sneeze, pause. அந்த அளவுக்கு I used to just take notes. And now I've moved a little from that, and I try to look at the spirit or the space from which they are saying things, and I try to internalize it in my body rather than put it in paper.
Let me just carry what I asked you was that, did you write what write?
எனக்கு உங்க வாய்ஸ் வந்து பிரேக் ஆகுது.
Is it better now?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll just do something here and come. Just a second. I'm sorry.
While she comes, thank you so much for joining, Shruti. Thank you for joining, Hema. I saw your laugh. It was wonderful yesterday. Player of voices vandirukanga, and we have nice people who have joined. Thank you all for joining. Please stay tuned, because we've got a really nice journey that we're going to go along with Dr. Gauri here. So, okay, Doctor, tell us a little bit about your hero's journey. Everyone has their hero's journey. So tell us about your hero's journey.
Okay. See, as much as you look at my accomplishments, my qualifications, in the first go, I didn't get into the medical college. Plus 2, I couldn't get into the medical college. At that particular time, my family, there was so much going on, a lot of, parental disharmony, disputes, etc., etc. That's a separate story for another time. And I'm so surprised that even I got through the exam. Things were so hot at home. And I actually forgave myself for not being able to get into the medical college, because I knew it was not my fault. So I told to myself, there was the option called improvement, where you can redo the exam. So I did that. Okay. And then somehow in my pattern, I found things don't work for me in the first time. And at that time, I believed that. Okay. In a good way, that belief helped me. It's a wrong belief, but it helped me. And in the improvement, I topped. Okay. And then I got a choice of entering into any college in India. I got Madras Medical College, Stanley, all the premier institutions, but I chose to do it in Salem. So I think that was one hero story. There are so many hero stories, I would say, but let me just say that for this question. Then, during my undergrad and postgrad, God has blessed me to be the university topper, gold medalist, best outgoing student. And then it was just, up and up and up. God took me up and up and up. I went to the UK, practiced there, worked there, got into the prestigious Royal College of Obs and Gynae. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been a fantastic journey.
That's really, really nice. Wow. So I know something that maybe a lot of you don't know yet is that Dr. Kaure is writing a book. So I am really, really looking forward for the book. So what is this book going to be about, Doctor?
It's going to be something that every pregnant woman wants to read. Okay, so there are so many books in the market out there talking about pregnancy, but I'm going to look at it from a very different angle as a mom who's gone through the journey, and as a doctor mom who helps other moms deliver, from that angle. So it will touch a raw nerve in a very soothing way to anyone who's planning a pregnancy. That's my intention.
You've got a very beautiful way of rating things.
I'm just putting my heart out. I'm so um, wounded when people don't plan their pregnancy and they end up with complications. I feel, oh my God, this is preventable. Why didn't they? Why didn't they? And then I just say, you can't do this. You have to go out and spread awareness. You just can't sit and complain. This is my mind voice.
Extremely noble of you. Now, what does the statistics say? How many people actually are planning their pregnancy?
Okay, so let's go into two terms, planned and intended. See, planned actually should mean that they make everything okay for the baby, physically, mentally, get a medical clean chit, everything. But many people think planning means their intention to conceive and they're okay with the pregnancy. That is not planning. That is you're just allowing things to happen. You're not planning. Okay. So if you look at that raw definition of planning, where the couple are okay with the baby coming, it's 50%. 50%. So 50% of babies come where they are not welcome, and then they sort of are accommodated. And some have said, no, we don't want you. Leave the place. That happens.
50% unplanned pregnancy. Is that what I'm hearing?
50%.
I kind of agree when you say this because I'm a medical doctor myself, right? And even as I got married, I didn't plan for it. எனக்கு வந்து January கல்யாணம் ஆயிடுச்சு. Okay, I got married on the 29th of January. 22nd February I was pregnant. Okay, so although we have this knowledge about contraception and this and that, see, I had this a very strong idea that my mother took 3 years to conceive me, and she had to go for fertility treatment and to conceive and everything like that. So I said, number we are very bodacious. So to conceive easily, the fact kind of played in my head and said, number conceive அப்படின்ட்டு. So like before I even knew it, I was so I share a little story. So what I was doing just few weeks after pregnancy, I would simply pull a fast one. எனக்கு அப்படியே லைட்டா கதை சுத்துற மாதிரி இருக்கு அப்படி இப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தேன். I was like, I can't go do work. எனக்கு அப்படியே vomiting வர மாதிரி இருக்குன்னு I was doing a little drama. So my mother and my husband told me, okay, you over drama பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க, come let's go to the hospital. I said, கண்டிப்பா இருப்பது நம்ம அங்க போய் மாட்டிக்க தான் போறோம் அப்படின்னு. I was அங்க போய் see on the urine stick and say, you are very strongly pregnant அப்படின்னாரா. Oh my God, this is like not something that I found out in my personal experience. Found out with these people, no, I can't do anything about it, right? So when you think about planning pregnancy, even I didn't do that. We put a lot of thought into it, and so that's something. Do you have stories like this which they come?
Yes, because I think it's not in the regular agenda of people. Okay, and if you look at how I look at it is, my policy in life is I'm a crisis person. I thrive on adrenaline because any obstetric emergency is my life, So I know when not to create an emergency for myself. So, and I use the same analogy and then I extrapolate it. I will tell people that if you can avoid an emergency, avoid it. And if you can plan something in your life and if something can be prevented, I think we should, because a life anyway gives us plenty of surprises. So why would we surprise ourselves? From that context I'm talking. And
Yeah.
I'm not surprised with your experience, because many educated, progressive women, doctors are in the same boat. I would have been one of them if I didn't have this sensitivity, I would say. So it's not wrong, but there's a better way of doing it. And now that we know, uh, there's a better way, I think it's my duty to spread the word, because it will save a lot of heartache, for generations. And sometimes the insult is so subtle, it doesn't show on the surface, but it eats and gnaws away the spirit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean. So maybe if you could give us a 3-pointer, a reason, that we can look at life. Why is it important that we should plan pregnancy? Why don't you give us a couple of tips, maybe?
Absolutely. Number one that comes to my mind is, what is the outcome? Anything that you undertake, any task, you want to know what is the result. So the pregnancy, the result should be a healthy baby and a healthy mom. And the best way of ensuring is to plan for it and do whatever is required in human, within the human control. Beyond us, many things can happen, but still within our zone of control. So that's number one. Number two is, it impacts every part of your life. One of my friends used to say, having a baby is like a tattoo on your face. He said that in a very funny way, but I think baby arrival in a home changes everything, the thought process, everything. So when something major is going to change your life, might as well plan for the impact and receive it in the most welcoming way. That's number two. And number three, as I said, this is the biggest project in life, not just in your life, in the evolution of mankind. We are going to create better human beings. And we are the chain pieces in that evolution, in the whole world of consciousness. So we have a duty to create a better human being. And the minimum thing is PLAN, plan.
Plan, yeah. So talking about conscious pregnancies, right? So what kind of steps can couples go through? In fact, what is this? Like, what do they need to do to be conscious in the first place that yes, they want to actually conceive now? What is the process, or what is the experiment that they could put themselves through to recognize that, okay, what, here I am ready? Because in some countries, in Malaysia and all, before you get married, okay, especially in this Muslim culture, they send to be married couple for a course. This is how marriage is going to be. So you go learn and you go learn, and then there is certification, like after you have this much, and then you all have to sit together and learn some more, and then only you'll get married. And the money they'll kind of prepare you, because you don't want to go through this kind of therapy and counseling later. அதுக்கு முன்னக்கே பண்ணது வந்து it's an intelligent way of handling things. So do you think something like that could be a solution, or what?
Yeah, a formal way of doing that, yes, will be the best. But at the moment, as a makeshift, I would like to look at it from two viewpoints. One is the medical thing, a simple medical checkup to see if that particular person is able to take a pregnancy and assess the ability to conceive, ability to carry a pregnancy forward. Just very simple stuff. Checking their hemoglobin, sugar, thyroid, if there is any previous medical problem, and the fertility level, age, how long they've been married, and of course the man, the counterpart, his ability to father a child, just the basic stuff. So that's medical. But I've realized after these many years of practicing, the medical thing is a very small thing in the entire planning. It's more a holistic thing, and the non-medical actually influences the medical component much more. So I would think a child is an expression of love shared between two individuals, two souls. So unless they have enough love for themselves, if it's for me, for myself and my partner, then I wouldn't be having enough to give to my child. So I think that's the number one question that they have to ask. Do they love themselves enough to create somebody, another one, to share that love? It's very deep, and I don't know whether anyone will be able to say 100% wholehearted yes, but I think that question has to be there. Whether there's an answer or not, there has to be the question. Number two, finance. Okay. However, we may say money is bad, blah, blah, blah. Without money, you cannot support a new life and you can't support yourself. Okay. So security needs have to be taken care of. Money, insurance, all of that. One basket. Number three is your career. Both the man and the woman should look at the career aspirations, and will the baby be coming at an untimely time, things like that. Because I find when some people are waiting for a visa to go to another country, and then the baby comes, they don't know what to do. These are real instances from life which I'm quoting. So that. And finally, the support system. Yes, baby is good news. Yes, baby is a lot of joy. But after the baby comes, do I have the support system to take care and give what the little one deserves? So, as a basic minimum, I think from all these angles, planning has to happen because this is irreversible. It's not like we order a product from Amazon and then we send it back. Sorry, please excuse me for being so blunt, because such thoughts do cross minds when they are put in a fix where they are not ready and the baby is there and they don't know what to do. So it's a life that we are creating, and we are blessed to have the ability to create a life. And I think thought has to go before welcoming another life into our lives.
Now we are talking on a space where a lot of people are very conscious, but we are also it's very notable to recognize we are staying in a country where if you do not bear, then you're like a empty barren land. There's a lot of stigma around women if they do not bear child. There's a social pressure where you just need to basically give birth. Then only you are now validated as a woman. Not only your in-laws will ask you now. Society itself will start asking you, எப்பமா அடுத்தது இந்த கரெக்ட் ஒரு வருஷம் ஆச்சுல now how to deal with that, because sometimes they already know that what, they're not ready for the pregnancy, but somehow the peer pressure, the societal pressure, and just sometimes even pressure at the home itself can be very overwhelming. So how do they deal with that?
100% I agree with you, because I've gone through it myself, not as a woman, but as a gynecologist. Because when I see women who come to deliver with me, their elders in the family ask me, do you have children? This was the time when I didn't have a child. So when I said no, they automatically thought I don't have the ability to help them. Okay, and then they ask, oh, you don't have a kid? How come you can deliver? We know that that's the level of understanding of some people. You should feel sorry for them, try to educate, but don't spend too much time there, but rather focus on what you want. Okay, so I've gone through that, so I do know what you're expressing, and there are a lot of women who go through that. It's a choice, and every choice comes with a consequence. If we are going to give in to the push from the masses, then there is no end to it. Not even the next birth and the next birth and the next birth. Unless we take conscious decisions when we are able to, it's difficult. And even for someone who's sort of moved from that realm to conscious, I find it very tempting to go back and just be one among everybody and just be, merge with the masses and not stand out. I have the temptation. So I do understand from where you're talking. The best thing is to not explain. Each individual, they are born with their own sovereign rights. And when it's a couple, you share the rights. And a couple is not answerable to anybody else in the family unless they choose to. And no one should pressurize somebody to have a child, because that's a very personal decision. It's like me coming and asking you, okay, what's the size of the innerwear you're wearing?
Please clear that. Why?
I know you cringe at that question, but no one cringes when they ask, oh, when was your last period? Oh, you didn't miss your period this time. Oh, you didn't have a baby this time. No, they are so casual about those very personal things, but not about the other things that really matter. Is it okay, Kartika? Can I go on like this? I've been wanting a platform to, air this out.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Because education and life partner, having a kid, these three decisions are of the individual. Nobody has the right to, interfere. But you see, These three things are dictated by the collective unconsciousness, I would say.
Correct.
We
Correct.
do it because we have to. And if someone questions, why did you do that? I just did it.
I didn't know enough,
Yeah.
probably I was, um, yeah, and I think as much as you are saying right now, I think it is also important to recognize that everybody is a different phase of their journey during the same time, correct? So,
Absolutely.
and for someone to actually be awakened or come to awakening, in fact, they have to go through that. So whatever process that is they need to go through, even if it is a pregnancy, hopefully it's not a pregnancy, I pray and wish it's not a pregnancy. But if that is the journey that you have to go through to, understand your soul and be connected to it, I honor that, I accept that. But if you see, when I was going through all this, I didn't know about consciousness. Or I was not available. I mean, this was not something that I was listening to right now. If you're going to get married and then you want to have a pregnancy, I think it's very important to recognize why is it that you want to have the pregnancy. Because I feel like it becomes a distraction. The moment a child comes, there's nothing left between the couple. Because all the energy is gone towards the child right now. All right, and there's nothing literally. There's going to be a lot of even emotional issues which happen between the couple because all the attention is going to the child. And I don't only here, especially in Asian countries, that is they push you into getting a child as soon as you get married. This is not a culture which is there in the West where they get to know each other. They really build a foundation of love. They really recognize the why they want to have a child and then plan for it. So maybe because of the culture of arranged marriage and maybe I am not able to put my finger on it. But going forward, I think it is very important to just build that relationship first. What do you think?
Absolutely. See, I find that if, for example, I'm going to take an example of a couple where there is no love. Okay. So in that case, when the child comes, the child becomes the bridging point of the couple.
Correct.
So they give the whole responsibility of their relationship to that child.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they blame the child for not being able to get out of the relationship. I'm just using a very extreme example, but that's that. Okay. Or if you find another couple who are loving, but who have not had enough time for themselves, then the baby again comes in between them.
Correct.
Okay. That's also not a very healthy thing. So a lot of forethought definitely has to go to it, but I think this is all a result of our societal norms and the way we've led our lives. There are a lot of plus points in having a kid as soon as you're married because it gives us etc. etc. And then because of the bonding, you tend to work on your relationships because the couple, the spouse is supposed to be your mirror and show you all that is not okay with you and you're supposed to work on it. How many of you would do that willingly? We wouldn't want to look at our drawbacks, isn't it? On the other side, make peace with the fact and then choose consciously to have a child. There are plus and minus in both, but I am looking at everything from that newborn's point of view. So if I'm coming to your home, I would rather be welcome than when I come in and then you open the door and say, oh, Vandatiya, okay, wow, Karan. Instead of that, I would love to be welcome. And I want to receive an invitation. And I want you to keep your house adorned and decorated and prepare good food for me and ask me to stay. And not question me, oh, how did you come? I never invited you. Oh my God, I forgot my pills. I didn't buy condoms. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at everything from the newborn's point of view. If you look at the same thing what I've said from the parents' view, it might be very disturbing. I'm sorry. But I'm looking at it from the newborn's view.
Correct. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And it really shifts the perspective as you actually look at it that way, right? Powerful. So to all of y'all who are tuned in here, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Dr. Meena, anything that coming up on your mind in regards to how important it is to plan a pregnancy or anything that revolves around pregnancy, please put it up right here. Thierry, why don't you tell us? I think we all connect to stories, right? We all connect to stories. So why don't you share some stories, or perhaps one story that really shocked you?
Okay. Yeah. Here, I've shared this in public already, but I will share it once again. It's worth the message. I saw a young couple who came to me for their first pregnancy with so much of joy and happiness and excitement. They were still in the honeymoon phase, that beautiful chemistry, that cloudy thing, and they came in. Okay, and then I congratulated them. I asked them to come back with the blood reports. My usual thing. Okay, I was also happy. I borrowed their joy for some time to keep my energy high. And then the next day, they come back with a report which says HbA1c is 12. Okay.
Wow.
And I was devastated because they didn't know about it. I know about it, so I was devastated. And then they asked me, what is this? What is this? And then I went on to tell it's the average sugar level in the last 3 months. If this value is more than 10, it's not good. And then I wore my doctor hat, removed my mom cat, my human cat a little bit, and then continued. And then the only reassurance that the couple, they were looking at me like to say, nothing will happen, everything will be fine. I was helpless. I cannot say that the number didn't let me how much ever I want to. So there's a 25% chance, 1 in 4 chance the baby could have a serious problem, something life-threatening as in the heart or the brain. And that is not something I can just talk raw, give them the data. No, it's not. It's not easy for them. Nothing went through. Once I told that there is a chance of a problem, even with that, the joy just crumbled in front of my eyes. A beautiful dream house smashed. If there was a planning, if she had, knew that she had to test her sugars prior to pregnancy, I would say prior to marriage, I would say even further, from adolescence. See, if you look at the life stages of women, we have predictable stages where we definitely need health care support, like once in adolescence, pre-pregnancy and pre-marriage or pre-pregnancy, whichever, and then once the age is 40. So we have predictable milestones. And I think we should take those cues as we age and use them.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that story, right? So I think it's very important to actually recognize how we physically fit first to bear this child, because we don't want to be reason why that child, we have not prepared enough physically itself. If sometimes we could control the sugar and then bear that child, it would have been definitely a lesser percentage of statistic, right, of bringing forth a child with disability is what you say. All right, we have got a couple of questions here. Can we pick it up, doctor, with your permission?
Yes, absolutely.
So how do we conceive naturally with PCOS?
Awesome. So I would divide women with PCOS into 2 groups, okay, based on their ability to conceive. One who has regular periods, meaning they are producing their eggs on time, and the other group who don't produce their eggs on time. So for those who are producing their eggs on time, I will do the basic checks, check the weight, their blood pressure, their sugar, thyroid, hemoglobin, make sure they are protected from 2 viruses, chickenpox, rubella, all my routine checklist, and then teach them the fertile method and give them at least 3 months to conceive naturally. Okay, so if they are not, minimum 3 months, because if I give longer and not give them, I should give them the chance. At the same time, those are the women who may need more than natural trying. So 3 months is a good enough time for me to decide which group they will go into. And accordingly, we will reassess the situation. So if there is a factor like if the weight is on the higher side, then we will optimize it. If her hemoglobin is low, we will improve it. If there is a thyroid disturbance, we will correct it. If she is not protected from certain viruses, we will give her the protection by vaccine. Okay, so there's a lot of window of opportunity before we actually try pregnancy.
Okay, so I hope that answers your questions with our spices. If you have any more questions, please put it up. Please put it down here. Shruti, with PCOS, how do you plan? What do you need to do? I think she answered that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this question?
Yes. The other group of women who don't produce their eggs on time, again the routine checklist will be done, but they will need medicines to bring the eggs. And those medicines could be in the form of tablets, injections. They have their own effects, so they will need more close monitoring with blood tests, ultrasound scans, and sometimes the treatment can be as advanced as IVF for test tube baby. So some of them may need it. So we'll start with the basic and then slowly step up depending on how much time the woman has. I mean, the real time, not the societal pressure, but the real time that she has before she says, no, I have to go for IVF.
One of my earlier dreams, was actually to pursue IVF because I was extremely passionate about even delivering when I was in medical school. So, we were usually put into this. We went into different states to actually serve Indonesia before we came back. So after we finished, 6 months they put us on rotation just to do like a public stream. So at that point, since we were in real district basis, right, we were allowed to really conduct delivery. And I just had a knack with it. I loved doing it. Like in one particular station, some 50 delivery or something that I did. And I thought like, okay, this is something that I really may want to do if I want to be a doctor. And I guess there are sometimes you follow your people calling. So I kind of relate to you when you say delivery and IVM and all this on that level because that's what I've actually done a lot. So let's go to the next question, okay? My sister gets pregnant, but the fetus does not grow and the heartbeat stops after 2 or 3 months. What test should both of them go through?
Okay, thank you, Shruti, for asking that question. See, this is what we called as the early pregnancy loss. And if we divide that into 2 categories, whether it's less than 8 weeks or more than 8 weeks of pregnancy, because the reason is very different for this and that. So if it is less than 8 weeks, we look into the chromosomal makeup of the embryo and the treatment and the testing, everything is different. If it is beyond 8 weeks, there could be some interference with the blood supply to the baby, and we test on different angles. So this is just for that part. Apart from the pregnancy related tests, general health has to be tested because many of the times I find that those tests are missed or not given so much of importance as the specific tests. Every time I will do the holistic evaluation. So that way I don't miss the bigger picture. At the same time, I'm working on the smaller picture. I'm just sharing one of my work ethics because every time I see a patient, I go through all the records because there may be some point which is the missing puzzle. So that could happen. So there are tests and there are solutions for that. There are a lot of women who've gone through such situations, go on to have a healthy, beautiful pregnancy the next time, and they completely forget about what happened. So there is hope, and I would encourage your sister to do the test, and definitely a lot of good things can happen to her.
Yeah, that's really, really nice. I think that's very important. Hope is something we all need, and I think we all strive for it. Hope is all we have, sometimes I believe very deeply. So thank you so much for answering that. Now, Flavor Spices has asked again. Thank you for answering, doctor. But please give tips to naturally try without medication. Is there anything that we can do?
Okay, naturally trying for pregnancy is what I'm assuming that question is. So yes, okay. See, for a pregnancy to happen, I'm going to the very basics. Okay, 2 lovers have to meet and in the park. So the egg and the sperm have to meet in the tube and the baby has to form in the tube. The baby swims down and comes into the uterus, attaches or claws inside the uterus wall. That's it. Okay. So this has to happen. So what all should be okay before that? If you see that the general condition or the overall physical health of man and woman should be fine. The opportunity for the egg and the sperm to meet at the right place at the right time should be created, which is the fertile period. And the fertile period is usually calculated based on the length of the menstrual cycle. And for ovulating or an egg producing woman, the length of that cycle is 28 days plus or minus 4-5 days. So anywhere from the 8th day of period till 18th day. 8th starting from the first day of bleeding, not from the day of finishing. Traditionally, our women are taught to count after the periods are over. Starting from the first day, 8th day to 18th day, This number may move a little. It can be 10th to 20th, 12th to 22nd, depending on the length of the cycle. Your doctor will be able to do the calculation for you. And now we are more sophisticated. We have apps that predict our ovulation and give a ting ting reminder. And we can also, send a message to the father to be to remind him of his duties. We have a lot of stuff. Yes, egg is ready. Come on, you get apps like that. So that's yeah. So and give yourself the time. So at least 3 months is what I would say, because it's a cumulative success. It's not that in the first month everyone who tries is going to be pregnant. No. So if 10 couples try, the first 3 months, 3 of them will make it. In the next month, totally 2 months, 6 of them. 3 months, 8 of them. 9 of them. So like that we have calculations. So give yourself minimum 3 months, provided you have nothing else in your medical history which needs urgent help.
Okay, super. Thank you so much for that answer. Now let's talk about something which is taboo and probably even something which we likely don't want it to happen. But there are cases where unplanned pregnancies happen and people do come for MTPs, right? Now, what are your takes on that?
Wow. Okay. It's a taboo topic, but I believe taboo should be spoken. They should be spoken more than the other regular topics, because once we say and once we name the unnameable, things become better. So MTP is medical termination or ending of a pregnancy. So if you look at the legal system, it gives us reasons. Number one, if there's something serious that will happen to the baby because of continuing the pregnancy, it's legal to end the pregnancy. If something untoward can happen to the mother, that's the reason. And that untoward effect could be physical or mental, if it will cause distress to her. Okay. And again, another taboo topic, if it's because of a forced sex, rape, things like that, then the woman has a right to end the pregnancy. And if it's because of a failure of using birth control, the couple didn't want to have a baby, they used everything, and in spite of using, they failed. Okay, so there again, law gives us the space to end the pregnancy. So these are the common indications.
Okay.
My take is the choice to invite a pregnancy is with the couple, definitely. Okay, so there a lot of discretion and thought has to go in. Number two, in spite of taking all the precautions, if a baby has come and you're not ready, you have a choice of saying no to the baby. But along with that choice comes a consequence. One consequence is, none of us know that just because one time you conceived, you will conceive again. There is no guarantee. And I find a significant portion of people who come for IVF and a significant portion of women who come for fertility treatment have this story buried somewhere in their cupboard. I don't know if I'm going to be penalized for saying this, but I'm happy that I've said this. Number three is the regret that happens after successfully ending this pregnancy, maybe going on to have another child and another child, having a lovely family. But this dark secret can remain in the subconscious. It can do things which we don't know how the effect is going to be. Or there can be a very, tangible regret in the family. Things like that. Particularly if the children are of a gender which the couple don't want. Say if it's a boy, and then they will think, oh, it might have been a girl. And say if they have a girl, then they'll think, oh, that might have been a boy. I've heard such conversations. I'm privileged at the same time, part of those conversations where I'm just thinking, my God, look at the combinations, look at the permutations of how the human mind can work out the possibility of a pregnancy.
Wow. Thank you so much for tuning in, Gina. That's something that I also want to pick up. That do you actually get cases of people even coming to inquire for this matter? Because here in India it's quite strict, right? You're not allowed to reveal the gender of child. So sometimes somehow they do find out by various means, and then do they come and ask for termination just because of the gender that they are not they're not happy with that gender, or they're not expecting the gender to say. So, have you had any experiences like that? And what do you do when you put on a situation like that? To answer this.
Yes, very good question. The thing is, with the stringent act, gender pickup or identification is not happening. At the same time, the other form of requests come. They come and ask me, see, I had a girl child in my first pregnancy. I want a boy. No, I don't want a boy, but my family wants a boy. And then my brother's brother has 2 girls. So my mother-in-law wants me to have a girl. Things like that. And then they ask me, is it possible for us to conceive a boy? Is there any trick? There is some Chinese calendar. Can you help us decode it? Or is there any medicine? We don't mind doing IVF. We don't mind spending crores. That's the dialogue with which they come. More than the other part. The other part was when the government was still trying to enforce the rule, where somebody in some pocket did some, unlawful identification and they come. That's the past. The new thing is, can I choose the gender? Okay. Unfortunately, in India, because of the female feticide and other things that have been done to women, it's not a possibility, and it should never happen. And I think it's a sweet surprise, isn't it? On one side, I'm thinking it's a sweet surprise. On the other side, in countries where the gender is pronounced and they, make arrangements based on the gender of the baby. I've been in the UK for some time, so I see the blue deck and the pink deck, but I don't think we are at that level. At least not until today. Can you hear me? No.
Doctor?
No, yeah. I'm able to hear you.
Okay. Super. Did I lost you a bit? Sorry,
okay. Do you want me to repeat what I said? Do you want me to repeat?
Blue in the UK, pronounced blue.
Yeah. See, in the UK, in certain countries where announcing the gender of the baby with the first scan is done. So there they prepare the deck, they decorate everything, the baby's room, they paint it blue, they get all the masculine stuff for the baby and the toys, the pinky cutie things for the girl, and that's awesome. But I don't think we are at that level in our country at the moment, and I think things should change, and we might be able to do things in a different way.
Yeah, so you do think it's possible that the law may be lifted in the probably next 10 years, maybe?
I would like to be optimistic.
I like your answer. I really like your answer.
Hope is the only thing.
The people who really, really inspires you, Doctor?
So it's 3 people. Oh, okay. Number 1 is my mom. She is 67 now. As I told you, she is a surgeon. She will always be a surgeon. Even though she's retired from her government service, she served in a private medical college. She is now a student of Obs and Gynae. Wow. She just fell in love with the profession after seeing me do stuff. And I think admiration is the best praise, isn't it? What best can I ask for when my mom loves my job and she's taking up that career at this age? Wow. I'm blessed to have her. So she is a voracious student. She's getting trained in Obs and Gynae. And yeah. And I can never compete with her speed and sincerity, her diligence. Wow. If I can do 1% of what she does, I will be there.
Okay, so number one, mom. Second?
Number 2 will be from, my guru, Dr. Saraswati ma'am. She is my chief of Obs and Gynae during my postgraduate days. She is like a second mom, I should say, in many ways. She has put me in a pressure furnace where I become a diamond, She's given me such hard assignments. I was literally like a twin with her. There was no working hours, nothing. We so many things together. And apart from our regular postgraduate duties, we used to assist her in her presentations when she comes and does rounds outside the working hours. And she is a force of nature. And nothing can escape her eye. She has, literally the eyes of an eagle. the heart of a lion, all of that, the surgeon's thing. And if you give her any task, anything, she will get it done like that. She has a huge network of connections. She'll make 2 calls and then it's done. So I think the resourcefulness is her strength.
Are you still in touch with her?
Of course. Of course.
So who is the person who inspires you?
Third person is Dr. Girish Kumar. He's an energy healer. He is my guru in the realm of spirituality. He has understood me in a level where I don't understand myself to that level. He is a brother from a different mother, and he has big plans and dreams for me more than what I can imagine. He's resurrected me from a lot of things from my past shackles, and he's given me the wings to fly. He's taught me how to love myself.
You know what? Tomorrow
Love you, Dr. Girish. Love you.
tomorrow he's sitting on the conscious conversation with K at 7 p.m. So tune in.
Awesome. Wow. He's here. Oh, wow. Super.
So that's something that I'm looking forward for, and I will pass your love on to him as much as
Definitely.
you pass it to him.
Definitely.
So this is something that I do with all my guests on my show. Okay, I call this the billboard exercise. Okay, now I'm going to take you through a nice, wonderful visualization process. Okay, you are now imagining a really huge, okay, நல்ல பெரிய billboard. இது வந்து Gemini flyover இருக்குல்ல இங்க ஒண்ணு. The same billboard is now in Kuala Lumpur. KLCC building இருக்குல்ல அங்க ஒண்ணு வைக்கிறாங்க. துபாய்ல அல்புர்ஜ் மினுக்கு நியூயார்க்ல வச்சிருக்காங்க. இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் என்ன தெரியுமா, இந்த பில்போர்ட் வந்து இது எல்இடில இருக்கு. ஓகேவா? So what are you seeing on the billboard?
I'm seeing myself.
Okay.
And I'm seeing the phrase woman of substance.
Wow. You know what? I didn't realize that we have actually spoken for 59 minutes. We are at the last 1 minute of our conversation. So it is going to be you wearing your coat, am I right? And you're saying woman of substance, right? That's what your message is, right?
Say that again, sorry.
It's you on the billboard.
Yeah.
Are you wearing a coat?
No, I'm a plain Jane there.
Saying Jane, and you are saying it reads woman of substance. And I truly believe you are a woman of substance. You know, the very first interaction I had with you itself was very expensive. You have also, helped me to identify my guru, and right now, together I recognize that things are blossoming. So thank you so much for not only helping me, but so many other people who come in association with you. I wish you all the very, very, very best, and I hope you enjoy this conversation.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. Love you.
Love you so much. So there is somebody who said they wanted to ask you a personal question on the window. Yes. Can they ask you?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. This is the last